I'm just checking out this awesome how-to on installing cantilever brakes by Gary's Projects. Now Gary's put this video together and it's only 2 minutes 22 seconds long. It basically covers everything. I also asked him in the comments if you've got a little bit of rust or discoloration on your pivots, on the cantilever pivots, then what should you do? Should you sand them lightly or anything, or just clean them with WD-40, because that's his go-to cleaning method? So he replied on the comments there and said, yeah, just WD-40, just clean them down. So it was really worth leaving it and giving it some time. Since the last part of the video, I've done a day's work and been on a bike ride to clear my head. And yeah, before you're going to saw anything down, especially something that cost you sort of 50 quid and it's come all the way from the Netherlands, you know, it takes time to arrive, it's an investment. Before you end up sawing through anything like that, it's definitely worth giving it some time if you've got it. And yeah, so having taken that time to think about it, I have realized that I need to fit the front cantilever brake in order to make sure that the cables from the cantilever brake don't hit the rack or the rack mount that attaches to the front of the fork. So in a minute, I'm going to take Gary's advice, clean the cantilever pivots there with some WD-40 and fit the front brake. After that, I'll carry on fitting the rack, but yeah, stick with me while I fit this cantilever brake after I've finished watching this awesome tutorial.
Okay, installing Canti brakes, what you want to do is first grease up the pivot area with a little bit of grease. Next thing you do is push in the brakes. There's a little pin where you got to line up. Usually just put in the middle hole. These holes allow you to adjust the tension on your brakes. So once you've done that, the brakes should kind of spring back like this.
Okay, so following Gary's instructions, I have cleaned the pivots with WD-40, then I've greased up the pivots and I've pushed on the springs. Now I'm about to screw up the bolts. Gary suggested using the middle hole. I've actually used the bottom hole because if I use the middle hole, then it basically hits the inside of the fork constantly with the way that these are positioned. So I'm hoping that that works out, but if not, I might have to put it in the middle hole as advised. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on and tighten up these bolts and play with the position of the brake pad against the rim. So as you can see, I've still got the rack on here and it can be moved forwards and backwards. If I just leave it there so you can see the brake, I've got this in a position now that I'm happy with how it's hitting, and that's the same on the other side. So now I'm just going to go ahead and fit the cable. So what I've got looks a little bit different to what Gary had on Gary's Projects. It looks like this, and I'll need one of these, I guess. So basically we've got this, which is called the straddle cable carrier, and then this is the straddle cable that you can see over here. This runs through the bottom of here with the 5mm Allen key facing forward, and this is a 2.5mm Allen key adjustment there, so that fits over and attaches to the other side with a 5mm Allen key. Problem I've got is that I need this now to be above this like that. So we're going to have to just play with this until we get something that I'm happy with. Yeah, we're going to have to be quite precise with this, but for now I'll just tighten this 5mm Allen key bolt down here, like that, and then we'll get the brake cable running off the shifter and coming down into place here. I've managed to find this road brake cable set in my drawer of gears and brake cables, so I think I'm going to use this so that it's set up right from the start. I'm going to try it with a fairly short length of brake cable outer initially and see if that works out. I'm going to run a little bit of chain lube, a little bit of chain oil down the cable before I fit it. Right, so finally I have actually managed to fit this cantilever brake. This is actually my first time ever fitting cantilever brakes. I've fitted loads and loads of road caliper brakes, V-brakes for old mountain bikes, but not this old. I actually stayed away from quill stems and cantilevers, but always knew that I wanted to push myself to do a build that involved quill stems and cantilevers at some point. So now is that time. But eventually, and these brakes were very different to the ones that Gary was showing us how to fit in Gary's projects. So yeah, that video was super helpful, but I had to figure out how to fit these and Google the instruction manual myself. In the end, I've got the clearance really where I want it, so I don't know if you can see just here, but this end cap is really very close to the fork mount for the rack, and if I pump the brake, it moves up like that. Let me try and get an angle where you can see that. There you go, that's the clearance that I've got on the fork mount for the rack, and there you go, it just moves up away from it. Also, the clearance here for how close this straddle cable is to the rack is just a couple of mil, but I can always move this further forward if I do need to at some point. I just want to try and get it as clean and precise as possible at this point.